Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'm glad to be here in this important gathering. I just wanted to share with you some views about some recent development on the energy markets and how they can affect the energy transition to a low-carbon economy. First, some key events on energy markets. First is, of course, the return of higher oil prices. It was mentioned several times this morning. Oil price has been rising continuously since the middle of last year and is now reaching around $80 per barrel. So it's a drastic change after the 3 years of the downturn we've seen. So what are the consequences? Of course, the negative ones are obvious, in particular for large consuming countries like India, and to a lesser extent like Europe, for European countries, is higher energy prices for the consumer and a negative impact on the trade balances. At the same time, the good news is it will incentivize an upturn in investment after 3 years of very low investment level. And it may well avoid a possible oil shock in the coming years that would have been triggered by this lack of investment. In the gas sector, we are seeing also a radical change with a very speedy development of global markets. LNG markets were on the rise last year at more than 10% growth. It's much more than what was expected by all analysts. And actually, the overcapacities that have existed linked to the launch of new units in Australia, in the US, and also in Russia have been there for a while. But now we are expecting possible tensions in the coming years, despite the remarkable developments of the shale gas in the US. Regarding the energy transition, the US decision to leave the Paris Accord was clearly a key event, but we are seeing that the global dynamic to a low-carbon economy is moving on with renewed effort, especially at local level by regions, cities, or companies. Many countries are accelerating the shift to a low-carbon economy and high renewable energy systems. Global investment on renewables is now approaching the level of investment in fossil fuels. But this global transition remains a daunting challenge. It will take time, several decades. It will require a lot of financing and also technology innovation. We must actually bear in mind that that fossil fuels still account for more than 80% of world's primary energy demand. In France, our energy mix is already widely decarbonized thanks to nuclear, and the French government recently has set a new objective to be carbon neutral by 2050, which this is an ambitious goal, of course, that will need strong growth in the use of renewables. In India, the challenges are different. High growth in energy demand is expected. The forecast is that demand will double by 2035. And India has taken, in the context of COP21, an ambition commitment to reduce its emission intensity of GDP by 30% to 35% by 2035. So to reach this objective, it will need to develop cutting-edge technologies, in increasing professional training and education, and develop R&D and technical cooperation. Let me now look at some key aspects of this energy transformation in electricity, gas, and in the oil sector. In electricity, one of the ways to reduce, of course, CO2 emission is to increase the share of renewables in electricity production, and in India, at the same time, ensuring the energy access for every citizen. The electricity sector is, in many aspects, the easiest to decarbonize, as we have the technologies with solar energy, with wind energy. The costs are continuously decreasing, but huge investment are needed. There are also some technical issues, and in the future, new storage solutions will be needed to ensure the reliability of power supply. The design of electricity network will need to be more decentralized and closer to the consumers. So to develop demand restraint, optimize the production and smart grids, digital technologies will need to be widely deployed, and India has very strong skills in these areas. Carbon capture and storage associated with coal production can also be a solution to decrease carbon intensity of power supply. In France, almost 100% of power generation is decarbonized through nuclear and as well as renewables. Moving to natural gas is clearly a solution for transitioning smoothly towards a decarbonized economy. Gas offers a real opportunity to displace coal in power generation and thereby halving the level of CO2 emission. Natural gas is also a good complement to intermittent renewable energy in the power supply. Natural gas in India also serves as a substitute for coal in electricity generation, in fertilizer production. But gas imports are also growing to meet domestic needs, and import prices could hamper this expansion. So one of the challenges here, as it was pointed out this morning, is to produce more domestic natural gas to meet domestic demand. In France, gas is mainly used in the residential sector, and our objective is to reduce gas consumption by improving energy saving in building or in the industry sector. At the same time, we want to develop alternatives like biomethane. Biomethane, which is biogas stripped of its CO2 component, can be injected into the natural gas network. And this could also be an option for India. Let me finish by the oil sector. Oil will remain a very important energy source for transport and petrochemicals because it's very difficult to find cost-effective alternatives in the short to medium term. Biosourcing and green chemistry are very attractive research topics, but the petchem sector will remain heavily dependent on fossil fuels. Transport will remain also heavily dependent on oil products. So the first solution to decarbonize and is to enhance energy efficiency, to have more efficient internal combustion engines, and we work extensively on these issues at IFP. Second generation biofuels is also a topic on which we work a lot. It's using lignocellulosic resources such as agricultural and forestry waste. There are now some technology solutions are economically competitive. And of course, electrification of transport through the deployment of EV is also an attractive solution. But to be efficient, the e-mobility needs a low-carbon electricity sector and an infrastructure which enables quick charging for consumers. So for India, also the main issue is to develop its own production of refined products with the latest technologies to enable to produce cleaner fuels with the latest specification to improve air quality. This is the objective of the generalization of Bharat 6 specification by 2020. Improving also the public transport infrastructure, which is widely developed in India, is also a key option to limit congestion in cities. I know there are a lot of studies to develop smart cities programs in India. Let me conclude by I think to be successful in this energy transition, a key point will be to develop the R&D, to develop new technology solution to be at the pace which is required by the energy transition. So at IFP Energy Nouvelle, we have a strong track record in R&D for the oil and gas chain, including engines, but we are also doing our own transition, developing research on wind turbines, biofuels, green chemistry, and electric vehicles. Our industrial group has a worldwide presence from upstream to downstream and new technologies, including education and training, which is part of our cooperation, in particular with India. And I think the next presentation by Jean Santenac will show you how we address these new challenges, especially in the downstream sector. Thank you very much.